Hello everybody, welcome to Snyder's Inc. And today we got a MrBallen video, and this is Obsessed Doctor Tries the Unthinkable. But before we get into this video, got a sponsor. This sponsor is Vulcan's Apparel. If you want, the newest apparel for, gaming apparel, you want a sports local esports organization, what you gotta do? Go to Vulcan's Apparel. That's www.valkenc.com. Use the code, all caps, Snyder's Inc. Get 5% off your purchase. That's valkenc.com. Use the code, Snyder's Inc. All capitals. You get 5% off your purchase. Alrighty. Ladies and gentlemen, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Let's go.
But before we get into today's story is the definition of creepy. It starts somewhat normally, but then slowly spirals into absolute insanity. It is definitely one you will remember. But before we get into today's story, if you're a fan of these strange...
By the way, if I end up getting to a point where I've reacted to a video before, please let me know. Because when MrBallen wants to talk to me to keep track, I need to know where my point is, where I've reached the... I've done these before, so... I don't think I've done this before, but I know I'm going to get close to that point, so... Y'all need to let me know.
Dark and mysterious, delivered in story format, then you come to the right place, because that's all we do, and we upload once or twice every week. So if that's of interest to you, please go into the like button's fridge and dump out their 2-liter of Coke, and then refill the bottle with flat root beer. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. Before we get into today's story, I want to talk to you about today's sponsor, HelloFresh. The primary reason my diet periodically turns into Diet Cheeto smoothies and deep-fried licorice popsicles is because I get lazy. It's like, do I want to make another horrible trip to the grocery store? Or do I want to suck down another Sour Patch Kid covered in ice cream? Obviously, I'm taking the latter. But a couple of years ago, I discovered a way to eat healthier without the dreaded trip to the grocery store. And that's with HelloFresh. HelloFresh sends you this neat little box full of meals, and they have tons of choices from fairly intricate to 20-minute quick and easy recipes. But the catch is, the meals aren't made yet. You need to make the meals, but that's good because it ensures freshness, and you can literally see that the ingredients are as healthy as they come. And before you tell me you're a bad chef, I'm a bad chef, and I can whip these things together no problem. All the ingredients...
Listen, you are not a... I am a bad chef. I'm not good at cooking, almost anything. Oh God, I'm not good at being done by anything. Whew. I ain't got the money to be doing it. HelloFresh was cheaper. Well, I made more money. I'll be doing it, but I don't make the money to do it. I don't have HelloFresh money.
Arrive at your doorstep perfectly portioned out, and the recipes couldn't be easier to follow. So if you're finally ready to put down those chocolate-covered pickles, then you need to sign up for HelloFresh today. To do that, go to HelloFresh.com and use code MrBallen16 for up to 16 free meals and 3 surprise gifts. Okay, let's get into today's story.
The raven-haired woman. Okay.
In 1889, when Karl Tanzler was just 12 years old and living with his family in Dresden, Germany, he had a very strange dream. In this dream, he found himself in this black void. Wherever he looked, it was just nothingness. And then, behind him, he heard footsteps. And so he whips himself around, and he looks, and there's this woman dressed in this big, puffy, elegant white dress walking towards him out of the darkness. And when she walks right up in front of him, she comes to a stop, and she introduces herself as Anna Constantia von Brockdorf, who was a real person in the early 1700s. She was a noblewoman in Germany, and she would tell Karl that she is actually a distant relative of his, and that she was here to pass on a very important message. Karl was rooted to the spot. He didn't know if he should be afraid of what she was going to say, or excited, or nervous, But before he could decide, Anna had already turned and was pointing in the direction she had appeared out of. And so Carl turns and looks in the direction she was pointing, and out of this blackness, out of this void, came this woman's face. It was a face detached from a body that almost looked like a floating picture of a woman's face. And as this face floated closer and closer to them, Carl was...
What? What is this dream this man is having? He's in a black void with some actual, with a woman from like the 17th century who's in Germany, who was a big deal, who's claiming to be a relative, and he's looking into this black void in his dream, and there's this picture of a woman just getting closer and closer to him. What is going on?
Immediately struck by just how beautiful this woman was. Her hair was jet black like a raven's feathers, and her skin was white like porcelain. But there was something off about this woman, this floating face. She looked sad and kind of frail. And so as Carl found himself staring at this face, which was now right next to them, Anna spoke to him again, and she would tell Carl that this woman, the floating face, she's going to appear in your life later on, and it is your mission given by God to save her. She's going to be very ill, very sick, and you need to find a way to keep her alive. Then Carl, in real life, woke up, and immediately he was struck by just how visceral that dream had been. It really felt like that had just happened to him, but after a few moments it seemed like, okay, that was just a dream. But unlike other visceral dreams he had had in the past, this one did not gradually fade from his memory. Instead, over the course of that day, the memory specifically of the raven-haired woman's face really seemed to become more clear and more concrete in his mind, to the point where at the end of that day, he could easily remember exactly what she looked like. Over the following days and months and years, Carl periodically would have this same dream, this same vision of his distant relative Anna, who would come out of the void, and she would remind him to be on the lookout for this raven-haired woman when God sent her to him. But despite these constant reminders in his dreams, and Carl being ever vigilant to look for this raven-haired woman in real life, he never actually found her. He never met this woman he was supposed to save. Fast forward to 1926. Carl was 39 years old. By this point, he had gotten married, not to the raven-haired woman, but instead to a local woman in Dresden. And
that is insane. This man is so vigilant because this dream keeps happening, that he is looking for this raven-haired woman everywhere he goes. Every single place he goes, he is looking for this woman. He can't find her. He can't find this woman. No matter where he goes, he just can't find her. And he goes years and years trying to find her, but because the dream keeps happening, so he keeps getting reminded in his head about it, so he keeps looking for it, but he can never find her.
And the pair had 2 daughters together, and they lived a simple life, and by and large, Carl seemed rather content and happy with his life. However, secretly, he was a little disappointed that these dreams, these visions that he was having of Anna and the raven-haired woman, that they had not come true, that it really had just been a dream. That year, due to an economic downturn in Germany, Carl and his family left Germany and emigrated to the United States, where they believed there would be better opportunities for them. And when they arrived in the United States, they settled in Central Florida, but within a year, Carl and his wife had a severe falling out and they split up. And so Carl would leave the family home in Central Florida, and he would resettle several hundred miles south in southern Florida in a town called Key West. And it would be in Key West that Carl would get a job as an X-ray technician at a local hospital, and it would also be in Key West that Carl's life would change forever. Less than a year after settling in Key West, Carl was at the hospital going about his day when an older woman walked into the office, and she said to Carl that she was there to get her daughter, her 21-year-old daughter, an X-ray of her chest, because her daughter apparently couldn't stop coughing and they were concerned about it. And so Carl began doing the paperwork with the mother, when suddenly the daughter came into the office. And as soon as Carl saw her, he knew immediately that she was the raven-haired woman from his dreams. She walked in and she sat down in a chair.
Oh God, what was his reaction? What was his reaction? What was his reaction When this world, I want to know, did he like go over to her, like grab her and be like, I'm gonna save you. I will save you, I swear. She's just like, what the hell? I just wanted to answer my shit. What's wrong with you, you crazy man? What is wrong with you? He's 39, she's 21, they get crazy.
Chair, and Carl just stopped what he was doing and stared at the daughter. And then he kind of broke out of it and turned his attention back to the mother, and he said to her, "Ma'am, don't worry. I will do everything in my power to save your daughter's life." Now,
that's... I don't know if I would want to be told that by a doctor. She's like, I just want to get next to her chest. I think she's coughing a lot. Okay, I'm gonna make sure she survives. Okay, well, you don't... Mom's on my word, we don't know if she... I think she just probably has a cold or something. I don't think you need to go full on... She's gonna die route. I don't think you need to do that.
the mother didn't know what was wrong with her daughter. And so this was both really helpful that this man she was talking to was so willing to help, and also kind of ominous that he was already insinuating that she could be dying. But either way, the mother said, "Thank you very much. We really appreciate that." And so Carl and the mother, they finished their paperwork, and then Carl quickly left from behind his desk and hustled over to the daughter, and he introduced himself, and he reiterated that she was in good hands. And the daughter was a little bit weirded out by this, but
I would be too. I would 100% be too. I'd be like, can I get a different doctor? You're weird. You're weirdness to you. I don't like... You make me uncomfortable. That would make me uncomfortable. There's a weirdness to this man. I don't like it.
But she was polite and said thank you, and she said her name was Elena. And so Carl would take Elena and bring her back and give her the x-ray, and unfortunately he would discover through this x-ray that she had tuberculosis. Today, that disease is easily curable, but at the time, that was a death sentence. When Carl saw this though, in a weird way, it almost made him happy, because this was another indication that, this really was the raven-haired woman from his dreams. Not only did she look the part, but she also had arrived in desperate need of help. And so now Carl needed to find a way to save her, even though he was just an x-ray technician. He was not a doctor, and so he had no clue how to begin to treat tuberculosis. But that didn't stop Carl. Over the next year, Carl would be in touch with Elena and her family on a near daily basis.
This is insanity. This guy is obsessed. This dream has made him obsessed with saving this girl's life. This girl who has no idea that well, I guess she probably does know, because he probably told her that she had tuberculosis. Holy crap, I can't speak. I know English, I swear. But like, he's so obsessed with it that he's trying to just save her, doing things that either could make it, he could help, or could make it so much worse than you could imagine.
Updating them on all of the new techniques to fight tuberculosis that he was doing all this research on, and he would tell them about experimental procedures and drugs they could try, even sometimes paying out of pocket for them to go try them. He would also bring Elena into the office as often as he possibly could to x-ray her again and again and again to see if perhaps she was making good progress. But unfortunately, over the course of that year where he was doing everything he could, it just didn't work. The disease ravaged Elena's body, and on October 31st, 1931, so roughly a year after Carl had first met Elena would unfortunately pass away. Elena's family was devastated by this, but their grief didn't even compare to Carl's grief. It was like Carl had lost his life too. He couldn't believe.
He failed, in his mind, he failed his mission. He failed his mission in his dream that he was told, that was given to him by God to save this woman's life. And he failed it. In his mind, he failed it, and because he failed it, he can't let it go. His brain won't be able to let that go.
He had failed his mission and let the raven-haired woman died. When it came time to bury Elena, Carl said, "Let me pay for the most elaborate gravesite we can possibly make. Let me set up a mausoleum for her." A mausoleum is an external building that sits in a cemetery that effectively serves as a kind of shrine to the deceased. And so her family, they understood that Carl had become very, very close with Elena, although they didn't fully understand the relationship, but they did understand she meant a lot to him, and so they agreed to let her.
It's so weird. What would be your reaction if a doctor was this obsessed with your daughter? And it's not even a sexual predator thing. It's just a doctor really overly obsessed with saving the person's life to the point he's going above and beyond. And then when she dies, unfortunately, he's more grieving than you are. How would you react in this situation?
Let him do this. After Elena was buried inside of this small temple that Carl had built for her, Carl began spending virtually all of his time kneeling inside of it, crying and begging for Elena's forgiveness. Elena's family was well aware that Carl was doing this, and at first they kind of just let it happen. But, after several months, they began to tell Carl, you really need to let her go. You need to begin to move on. But Carl refused. In fact, over time, he only became more and more obsessed with Elena. Finally, after 7 years of Carl doing this...
My God, 7 years? My man, she gone. She gone. She is gone. You can't keep going. She gone. It's been 7 years. Carl, you can't. She gone. She gone, Carl. You gotta let her go, man. She gone.
Elena's family decided, enough is enough.
Yeah.
He really needs to stop making her loss all about him. It's not his loss, it's our loss. We're her family. And so the family decided...
Yes, you're the ones that have lost the family member. He just met a patient he met a year before she died. Carl becoming creepy. Carl's becoming creepy and I don't like it. Carl, you're weird. You're becoming way too creepy.
The only way to kind of get Carl to stop doing what he was doing is to demand he give the key back that gave him access into the small area inside of the mausoleum. So one night, Elena's sister, whose name was Florinda, decided to go over to Carl's house unannounced and confront him and get the key back from him. And so she hopped in her car and she drove over to his property. His house was kind of set back off the road behind some trees, and so you had to drive down this kind of winding driveway to get to it. And so Florinda turned onto his driveway and she began driving, and when his house came into view, the first thing she noticed was a number of the windows on the first floor were all lit up. Clearly Carl was home, and as she's driving towards the house, she's just looking in these windows, and for a second she sees Carl, and he's very elegantly dressed in a suit or a tuxedo, and he's ballroom dancing with this woman who's also very elegantly dressed as well. And for a second, Florinda considered turning around and not disturbing him, but then she thought, you know what, this has been going on for so long, I just need to get this over with. And so she drove her car and stopped in front of Carl's house. She hopped out, she walked up onto his porch, and she knocked on his front door. Inside, she could hear music was clearly playing, but just a few seconds after she had knocked, the music was cut off, and then no one came to the door. And so Florinda knows there's people inside this house, and so she knocks again, but again, there's no movement in the house. It's just silent, as if the people inside are pretending not to be there. And so finally, frustrated, Florinda knocks on the door a third time and says, "Carl, I know you're in there. I have to talk to you about my sister. Please come out here." And so finally, she heard the shuffling of feet, and then
Carl would be like, "Okay, if we sit silently, no one will know we're here." And she's like, "Carl, I know you're in there. Just come out now." He's like, "Fine." He's almost like, "Damn it. She knew I was here."
she heard the sound of the door unlocking, and it opened up just a crack. And through this crack, Carl looked through, and he looked out at Florinda very suspiciously, and he said to her, "What do you want?" And Florinda would say, "Look, I'm here to talk to you about my sister. Can I please come inside for a second, or can you come out here and talk to me?" But Carl pretty much immediately said no, and then he shut the door. However, before he shut the door, Carl had very briefly stepped out of the way, allowing Florinda to see through that gap into the house. So before the door actually shut, she got to see who and what was inside that house. And what she saw was the woman Carl had been dancing with, and the woman was seated in a chair maybe halfway through the house, and she was facing the door. And Florinda knew immediately it was her sister. And so she's standing on the porch having no idea what to make of what she's just discovered. And so feeling kind of overwhelmed, she just kind of staggered off the front porch, she turned around, she ran into her car, and she drove off to tell the police. When the police came back, they knocked on the front door, and they demanded that Carl let them see the woman he was there with. And so at this point, Carl knew the gig was up, and so he opened the door and he allowed them to come inside. And when the police went inside, they saw the woman he was with, and sure enough, it was Elena. However, Elena was deceased and had been for 7 years.
This man stole a body? This man stole a body? Now listen, I am not a man, I'm not a religious man, but I'm pretty sure God did not want you to do that. I'm pretty sure God did not approve of you stealing a woman's body. I don't think that was part of the game plan that they had in mind if you saving this woman's life. Carl, you've gone overboard here, my man. You're not supposed to steal the body. She gone, Carl. Carl, she gone. She gone, Carl. What are you doing? Carl. Carl. What are you doing? Carl. Why are you stealing bodies, Carl?
After her death, Carl said he was able to talk to her inside of her mausoleum. And so that was why he was going back there every single night, because he and Elena were spending time together. And then at some point in 1933, so 2 years after Elena has been dead and buried, Carl would say she told him while he was visiting her mausoleum that she didn't like being in the mausoleum and that she wanted to come back with him and stay at his house. And so the following day, Carl had shown up with a child's wagon, and he pulled her out of her coffin, pulled her out of the mausoleum, put her corpse in this wagon, and wheeled her back to his house. He had continued to go to the mausoleum every night for the next 5 years just to keep up appearances. But Elena's body never went back inside of it. She would stay at his house, where he painstakingly attempted to restore Elena's very badly decomposed body to its original form. He strung piano wire through her entire body,
Oh my God! Carl! What are you doing to Elena? Carl! My man's gone overboard here. My man took this to a level he ain't supposed to. He crossed that line from normality to insanity. He crossed it. He wasn't even like he tried not to. He stepped right over and ran past the line. What's wrong? This man shouldn't. This is insanity. This man should not be allowed near any body or any humans. Like, oh my God. They hate a danger to living humans. He just endanger the people, because if he becomes obsessed with them, he might, steal the corpse. Goddamn.
Connecting all of her bones together to keep her skeleton intact. He replaced her eyes with glass eyes, and he began rubbing the special wax all over her skin. He also stuffed her insides full of rags in order to give her a full, natural look, and he constantly sprayed her with perfume to reduce the smell. Once she was, in his eyes, back to normal, he began spending as much time with her as he possibly could. He would change her outfits constantly, he would put on makeup, and he would give her new jewelry, and he would talk to her about the ups and downs of life. He would laugh with her, he would cry with her, he would sleep with her. Carl would admit that ultimately his goal with keeping Elena in his home was to eventually still save her life. He believed if he could somehow get her body up into the stratosphere, that the radiation up there would bring her back to life. And if he
Carl, that's not how it works, Carl. That's not how it works. You don't just shoot someone into space and radiation makes you survive. Because if you shot her into space, let's say, Carl, let's play this game of yours. Let's say you shoot her up into the atmosphere. She comes back to life. She then, because I guarantee your dumbass wouldn't put a parachute or anything on it, I don't think parachutes existed. Which means she would then crash into the ground and die again. Carl, this was never going to work. Even if it could work, it won't gonna work, Carl.
he could do that, he would be fulfilling his God-given mission to protect her. But Carl never got a chance to launch her into the stratosphere. Instead, he was charged with wantonly and maliciously destroying a grave and removing a body without authorization. However, these charges would be dropped and Carl would be set free. As for Elena, her body was returned to her family and they would bury her in Key West. So that's gonna do it, guys. If you've got some...
Oh my god. What an insane story. I don't know what happened here. Carl went off the deep end, my friends. Ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you think of this video in the comment section below. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all for the next one.